Welcome everyone to the second session of the strategy session for board exams for class 10th. So welcome everyone to the second session. And yesterday we had seen the marking scheme and the different questions that we could expect in the board exam. Prima facie, in today's session, we'll be basically concentrating on two things. One is how to go about the board exam, basically the 3 R's, how you should invest and what you should do in those 3 R's, how to cater to all those questions, how to take up each and every section individually. And the second is basically in this limited time frame that you have, whatever that is 2 weeks probably as from the start of your board exams. So in this limited time frame, what and how shall we target our preparation, or how shall we smart study basically? So hello Aparna, hello Garv, welcome. Yeah, I'll take up your doubts. All the Sachin has a doubt. He's saying all the exemplar problems to be solved before exam. Yes, if you can solve all the questions of the exemplar, that's absolutely wonderful. If not, just go for quality studying, quality questions. Make sure that it's not about solving all the questions, it's about solving the good and a variety of questions. So introduce yourself to different sort of questions from the various chapters and you will be good to go. So in today's session, for the first 10-15 minutes or so, I'll revisit the marking scheme, the different sections that you have in your 10 standard board exam. And afterwards, we'll go into the expected questions, right? We'll basically indulge into the in-depth analysis of various chapters, what kind of questions you can expect, what how many marks for that particular questions, and how to cater to those questions, how to answer those questions. So a very good evening, everyone. I want you guys to stay with me for 1 hour, and I'm sure after that 1 hour, at least, you would be in that frame of mind, in that phase, wherein you will be all raring to go for your board exam. So what can we do to avoid silly mistakes? That's a very, very popular question and a popular problem that everyone faces. Everyone has faced. Even I have faced that during my student life. Jagdish Chaudhary says, how can we avoid silly mistakes? All right. So Jagdish, one thing that you can do is for avoiding silly mistakes is that's very generally speaking is that recheck your previous step. Each and every question, each and every step, make sure you revisit or recheck your just the above step. That will give you an idea as to where if you're going wrong or not. And always remember 3 plus 3 is not 9. Try to have a calm state of mind while answering the question. That will help you a lot. Doesn't ask the steps of construction, don't waste time doing. What should we do? Okay, so we are doubt by Prakhar Agarwal. He's asking that we have been told by our teachers that if question doesn't ask the steps of construction, don't waste time doing that. Yes, Prakhar, you are absolutely right. Your teachers are absolutely correct that if it is not asked explicitly that you have to write the steps of construction, if that's not mentioned in the question, please don't write the steps of construction unless it is explicitly specified. If it's specifying you have to write the steps of construction, please do. Otherwise, it's unnecessarily wasting your time. So avoid that. If you are time is on your hand and you have plenty of time and you're done with all the questions, you can of course write the steps of construction. That's always beneficial. What do I do? Garv is saying, what do I do if I do not start solving sample paper yet? Garv, it's not about solving just the sample paper. You might solve 10 sample papers and still you will be on the same stage before you were before the start of your sample paper solving. It's not about how many or how much sample papers you should solve or you haven't solved any. I can understand that. What is important is, why do we emphasize on solving sample paper is that you need to understand that sample paper solving is just like you're going to a gym, right? I'm sure you guys play some outdoor activity or go to a gym, right? And you weigh yourself, right? Giving a sample paper, giving mock test, giving previous year papers is just like standing on the weighing machine and weighing yourself again and again, isn't it? Where again, we are doing some exercise and we are checking our weight again and again. We are just testing ourselves, right? It's not about that, just testing yourself. It's about getting to know your problems, where your loopholes lie, where you get stuck in the questions, which kind of questions you're not able to deal with. If you can analyze that, analysis of sample paper is very, very important. Where you are going wrong. If you are taking 3.5 hours to complete the paper, right? So what kind of challenges you face while giving a mock test or a sample paper, that's very essential to analyze, and then henceforth move accordingly in your preparation. NCRT exemplar is enough. I would say NCRT is enough for some people. Hitesh, it varies a lot. Exemplar might be enough for you. It might not be enough for me, right? So you have to be the better judge based on a pre-boards result, how many marks you are scoring. That's how you will get an idea that, okay, I need to do an exemplar, or I need to go to the basics and start solving the examples first. Prasanna, that's already catered to. Careless mistakes. How to be cool and calm during exam. All right, that's very, very important. The most imperative, the first step of cracking any exam, not just a board exam, is how to be calm and cool during the exam. The only thing by which you can be calm and, of course, cool during the exam is basically by having a balanced set of mind. You forget about the result. You forget about how many marks you can score. What are your expectations? Forget all about. Just concentrate on the question at hand. What question of AP or what question of constructions is there? Just concentrate on that, nothing else. Right. So I'll be taking your doubts simultaneously. Let's move ahead and quickly go through the board examination, the marking scheme, and the weightage. Then we'll take up your individual doubts. So, of course, as you know, the board exams are happening after a gap of 7 years. The mandatory board exams, right? There is no division as such of syllabus. The entire syllabus is coming. The entire NCRT is coming. This is third point is not relevant for you right now because it's a 9-point scale. The grade will be evaluated. You will be evaluated at that. Every increment or a decrement, I would say, of 9, your grade will decrease. Maximum marks are 80. Everybody knows that. Passing marks, don't worry about that. I'm sure everybody is going to pass at least. Now, this is the most important thing, that what time, how much energy I should put in the different units, in the different chapters. How should I go about the preparation in this limited time frame? For this, I would just try and individually give you an idea about each and every chapter, so that in your preparation you know as to how and where to concentrate. Just give me a minute. All right, so coming to first of all the number system. I want to know 4 marker if it is not asked steps of construction by not writing to get 4 marks. If it's explicitly mentioned, I've already told this, the steps of construction you have to write. If it's not, it's your choice. If time is on your hand, you can write it. How to be confident at the answers we write. Ashna Kaur Dillon, how to be confident at the answers we write is about practice. The more you practice the questions, similar sort of questions will be asked in exam, and you'll be more than confident while answering them. Help in triangles, of course. We'll individually go through the different chapters and then we'll discuss in short of problematic. All right, Siddharth, I'll answer your doubt in a while. Please be patient. So first of all, as I was discussing the number system, in number system, we can expect usually 3 types of questions. The 3 types of questions that you can expect in a number system is a 1-mark question, wherein it is asking you to find the terminating or non-terminating, to identify whether the fraction is terminating or a non-terminating decimal representation. That's a 1-mark question. You just have to write either terminating or non-terminating. You have to see the factors of 2 and 5 in that. Another type of question is a 3-marker, or I would say rather a 4-marker might be there. Last year, it was a 3 marks question asked on basically the prove that root 5 is an irrational number, or prove that n plus 2, n plus 4 is divisible by 3, and all those kind of questions. The proving questions of 3 marks can be asked from number systems, the real numbers. Also, 1 mark or a 2 mark question can be asked based on the formula. I guess everyone is aware of the formula. HCF into LCM is the product of two numbers, right? The product of the two numbers is HCF into LCM. That's also a 2 mark question you can expect from this chapter. So all in all, you can expect 3 questions. One is of proving, one is of identifying whether it's terminating, non-terminating, and the third one is the HCF into LCM formula. Coming to algebra, algebra is the most important and vital unit when it comes to the marks weightage. If we look from the marks weightage, I would say I'll start with the arithmetic progression because that's the most scoring one. This is the most scoring chapter you can ever ask for in your 10th standard board exams. Why I'm saying this? Because arithmetic progression has got just 2 formulas. If you can just know the formulas and know the application of these 2 formulas, you are through with the chapter. Because arithmetic progression is nothing like a pattern, right? The pattern in which the numbers are increasing with a fixed distance, with a fixed common difference. So in arithmetic progression, the questions usually revolve around the nth term and the sum of n terms, right? So what kind of questions you can expect from arithmetic progression is word problems. It has been seen for the past 3-4 years, word problems usually are asked from arithmetic progression. Usually a 3 mark question or a 4 mark question from arithmetic progression is asked. Usually a word problem wherein a thief is running and he's picking up stones at a regular interval, bringing them back to his place, right? So it forms an arithmetic progression. You have to find in how much time or at what stone he should pick so that he covers a certain amount of distance. So we can solve word problems of linear equations. Yeah, pair of linear equations in 2 variables. That's about the 3 things. That's elimination method, substitution method, and of course the cross multiplication method. But a very, very vital thing about pair of linear equations is that in pair of linear equations, you are going to be asked about the consistency and inconsistency of a system, right? I am sure everybody knows about the 2 types of systems we have. The consistent system, right? There is a consistent system and an inconsistent system. In an inconsistent system basically implies we have no solution. There is no solution for the given system of linear equations. And in consistent, we have 2 categories. It could be either we have got a unique solution, they've got just one solution possible for the pair of linear equations, or it could be that we have infinitely many. Infinite solutions are possible. So from this, a question is for sure going to be asked whether the system is consistent or inconsistent, or identify an unknown constant, unknown variable, what value it will take for the system to be consistent. I hope everyone knows this, that A1 by A2 is not equal to B1 by B2 is not equal to C1 by C2. And infinite solutions is A1 by A2, B1 by B2, C1 by C2. They are all equal. The ratios are equal in the 2 system of linear equations. Over here, they are not equal. And in no solutions, basically, it is the pair of parallel lines we have. And in the parallel lines, we have got something like A1, A2, B1, B2. Their ratio is equal, but it's not supposedly equal to the constant terms ratio. This is the parallel line. You will get a question from this. Please make sure that you understand this very carefully. Can we judge in chapter 1 in word problem whether we have to find HCF or LCM? Yes, absolutely. Very, very important question is as asked by SK Enterprises, that how do we judge that we have to find the HCF or the LCM? Look for the term that is highest common factor, or look for the term that is greatest and least. That's the basic identification of that. Also, you have to apply your common sense in every question. You cannot have this short tricks and the smart tricks for each and every question. That's not possible. You have to apply your little bit of gray matter. When to find HCF and yes, exactly. That's what I've answered, Rohini. You look for the terms greatest, least. You look for the terms that which one divides which number which divides it in the maximum number of terms or minimum is there. You look for those terms and identify HCF and LCM. Try to practice a few questions. You'll get a knack of solving these kind of questions. Could you give a brief idea about the type of question that might be asked from each exercise? From each exercise, that's not possible to give you an idea about what kind of questions could be asked. I'll give you from chapter point of view that from AP you can get a word problem. From pair of linear equations, I was just saying that you will get a question of consistent system or inconsistent system. That is going to be asked. So make sure you practice questions like this thoroughly. From quadratic equations is another very, very vital topic from algebra unit. In quadratic equations, again, I would say you can get three types of questions. The three types of questions are basically, one is the straightforward, factorizing the quadratic, solving the quadratic equation. For that, we have got the splitting the middle term, completing the square, or the discriminant method, right? For solving a quadratic equation, I hope everyone knows we've got three methods: completing the square, splitting the middle term, and of course the discriminant method. That's a number one category of questions. The second category of questions is based on relationship of coefficients with the roots. That minus b by a is sum of roots and c by a is the product of roots. So you can get a question of this type based on sum of roots and product of roots. And not just for a quadratic equation, for also a cubic could be asked. However, the chances are very low, but you can get a cubic equation, relationship of coefficients with the roots. So please practice that as well because it's mentioned in NCERT. And the third type is basically the relationship of the discriminant with the nature of roots. I hope everyone knows this, that we have got a discriminant, and based on the value of discriminant, we have got the nature of roots. Like if d is greater than 0, the roots are real and distinct. If it's equal to 0, the roots are equal and real. If it's less than 0, they are the imaginary roots. So make sure that you practice these three kinds of questions from quadratic equations. Now, basically, I like to point out over here is that, guys, you might be seeing in the description a link, basically a page wherein you have to sign up and you'll get MN top 100 questions. So please do that. You'll get a good quality, more expected chances of 100 questions in maths and along with the solutions. So please sign up on that page. And as soon as you sign up, you'll basically get an email confirmation and an email revert. It's an automated mailing system which will get back to you with the PDF of the top 100 questions. So make sure you do sign up. Either you're logged in from Facebook or YouTube. Can you please tell me how to solve AP word problems? All right. AP word problems are basically made up of two steps or two criteria. That is basically the nth term you will have to write. That's absolutely necessary. You always have to write the nth term, and that nth term, not just in terms of A and D, depending on the question, A and D will change, and also the sum of n terms. The sum of n terms being n by 2, 2a plus n minus 1d. So you have to remember these two formulas, and the basic common sense you have to keep intact, and you will be good to go in your word problems of AP. Coming back to our third unit, that's coordinate geometry. Coordinate geometry I had discussed in my previous session as well, the last session yesterday, that coordinate geometry has three subtopics, and the three subtopics are very easy. Once you start your revision, go for this unit, right? Because it gets over easily, and it's more importantly, the questions are also very easy. The three topics are distance formula, section formula, and area of triangle. You can expect three kinds of questions. So please make sure you practice coordinate geometry, these three subtopics, one question at least, and you'll be good to go for coordinate geometry because it's one of the scoring topics. You can be confident that your 6 marks are intact, because coordinate geometry, it has been seen for time and again that the questions are easy, and more importantly, the topic is also very easy. Upstream. How Archana is asking basically quadratic and linear equations both has upstream and downstream. So that's very good question. Yes, it's mostly asked that we are having an upstream and a downstream, and you have to take variable that the boat is in standing still water and the speed of the stream, right? And then cumulatively answer and formulate your linear equation. So yes, you can expect such kind of question. This formula is for what a plus. This is for the nth term in an AP. Rashmi Sharma, this is for the nth term in the AP. The nth term of AP or arithmetic progression. And this is the sum of n terms of AP. Now moving on to geometry. Geometry is one of the most vital topics because students usually have, I'm sure every one of you have faced a point in your life that geometry you're not able to solve, question you're not able to solve, you're not able to get the what is happening in diagrams. There are too many variables, too many thetas to work with. So for geometry, I would say stick to your NCRT. Do not go beyond your NCRT, especially for geometry, especially for triangles, circles, and constructions. Do not go beyond NCRT. If you can do NCRT each and every question thoroughly, for geometry, I can say for sure you are good to go. Secondly, I would like to point out that in geometry, you've got theorems, right? In theorems, you've got circles, 3 theorems prima facie, that the tangents drawn from an outside point are equal, right? So for that, just stick to your NCRT. It has given very explicitly the RHS congruency and how do we prove that. The tangent is perpendicular to the radius at the point of contact. That's the second theorem also given, and the converse of it, right? So please go through the 3 theorems in circles. And in triangles, you've got the Pythagoras theorem. That's very much asked in board exams. The Pythagoras theorem explanation, the proof, and also sometimes the converse of Pythagoras theorem. Although converse is less expected, but make sure you do the Pythagoras theorem and the basic proportionality theorem of triangles. How to do paper presentation, I'll come to that in a while. Garv Lalwani, please be patient. How to solve questions with trigonometric identities. Yes, I'll come to trigonometry. Shahnaz, give me 5 minutes. I'll come to trigonometry as well. I'll give my personal tips. For trigonometry, guys, wait, we have constructions as well. Constructions, I'm sure you have seen already. If you can get the logic, if you can get the algorithm of why we are drawing this, the why of constructions, then construction is very easy. The 3 types of constructions are basically dividing the line segment into m:n ratio. That is done by 2 steps or 2 methods. You can do that by any of the one. Then we've got drawing similar triangles. I'm sure you have practiced each and every construction once at least, drawing similar triangles. And in that, please make sure that you see the ratio carefully, which ratio it is talking about. And lastly, the 3rd type of construction is drawing the tangents from an outside point, right? So please practice these 3 types of construction. And I mentioned this earlier as well, that you might write the steps of construction if you have time on your hand. If it's explicitly mentioned, please write the steps of construction, or also write the steps of construction. Please do write them. Otherwise, the choice is on you. I'll take up some doubts now. Then before moving on to trigonometry, common way of doing time and work problems. For time and work problems, I would advise you that go through the R.D. Sharma. It has categorically given the word problems, and it has a good quality time and work problems. Please go through that. It will hardly take 2 hours of yours, the practice. Similarity criterion is proving come. Jasmine has asked that basically whether the similarity criterions proving will be asked. Jasmine, the chances are very low. It's like almost 90% chances that you will not be asked to prove the AA similarity or other the similarity criterions. But the application part is asked. The application of similarity, wherein you'll have to find the ratio of areas or the ratio of the sides, that would be asked. Proving as such of criterions will not be asked. I have mentioned this in triangles. You can be asked two theorems, that is basic proportionality theorem, the proof, and the Pythagoras theorem. So make sure you do these two theorems proof very, very diligently. How can we improve triangles chapter? Kumrul, I've already stated this. I've already written this. Please go through the NCRT for triangles chapter. Just the NCRT. Please make sure in and out every question you are aware of, you know how to solve. You will be for sure confident in triangles after that. What should be the study plan for maths at this point of time, daily or during preparatory leave? Dheeraj, it's your question is like a subjective question. It depends. Dheeraj is basically asking that what should be the study plan for maths at this point of time. Basically, we should study daily, or shall we just take up maths at the in those 5 preparatory leaves? See, Dheeraj, there are two cases over here. If you are really confident in your maths board exam and you've got very good marks in your pre-boards as well, above 90% or so, above 70, I would say. So you can leave the mathematics right now because you have another subjects also like SST or Hindi to learn. Basically, you have to throat learn the facts and figures. So you can skip right now. But I would advise you that do not be out of touch of maths, right? It's very, very crucial to devote some amount of time to maths, because once you lose the touch, then it becomes really difficult to go back into that rhythm of solving the questions. So make sure that you do not lose the touch by solving, I would say, 10 questions at least every day. Just do not lose the touch of doing the questions, right? And of course, in the preparatory leave, you have to run the marathon every day, right? So that's how you should go about it. Do not solve the sample paper right now. If you have already solved them, go to the basics. Go to take up any reference book, R.D. Sharma or R.S. Agarwal if you want. If you're through with NCRT, but make sure you do the NCRT thoroughly. All right, Rohini is saying that give tips to revise. Rohini, I'll come back to your doubt towards the end of the second half of the session, towards the end of the session probably. Let's go to the trigonometry, because on popular demand, everybody has asked me time and again how to go about trigonometry, how to solve those really complex proving questions, right? How to balance the LHS and RHS of trigonometry, right? So for that, let's have a discussion for. All right. So trigonometry, first of all, I'm sure everyone is aware of the basic ratios, that P by H, the base by hypotenuse, the perpendicular by base. What are those? Sine, cos, tan. Everyone should be, of course, comfortable in those ratios. Now, the important point is that in trigonometry, after knowing the ratios, you will be aware of the 3 identities, that sine square theta plus cos square theta is 1. That's, I guess, the most basic of the identities. Then we've got 1 plus tan square theta, that's sec square theta. This also some of you would be aware of. Then we've got basically cosec square theta. I'm writing it a slightly twisted way. That is this. These are your 3 basic identities that you should be aware of, and the basic standard angles 30, 45, 60, and 90. Now, in proving, I'll give you basically a few tips that how to balance the LHS and RHS of really complex trigonometric questions. For that, first of all, have a really good glance on the question, that whether if you can make out an identity that is being formed, or can you convert everything into sine and cos? Will it benefit you? Because majority number of questions can be solved by converting everything into sine and cos and then simplifying. So convert everything into sine and cos. That's number 1 trick. Second one could be also that I'll just write on one statement over here. Sec theta plus tan theta, this is actually equal to 1 by sec theta minus tan theta. So this is a slightly different sort of identity you can form, right? Because if you multiply the RHS with the LHS, you are understanding it becomes sec square theta minus tan square theta, which is supposedly 1. So in your questions, if you see something like sec theta plus tan theta, and in the RHS you see 1 by sec theta minus tan theta, you can, of course, you know that, okay, this is forming an identity. Or you can also do one thing, that replace the 1. It is something sometimes asked, that question is asked, that sine square theta plus 2 cos theta plus 1. So you can replace that 1 also by sine square theta plus cos square theta, or sec square theta plus sec square theta minus tan square theta. And another one that we have is the cosec theta and cot theta one. That cosec theta plus cot theta is also equal to cosec theta minus cot theta, right? So please make sure that you have noted these two, because these two are being asked quite frequently in the past few years of proving trigonometric questions. Prem Singh is asking that, is it compulsory to prove root 3 is irrational if we have to prove 6 plus root 3 is irrational? Yes, Prem Singh, you have to prove root 3 is irrational if it is asking you that is 6 plus root 3 is irrational. Of course, you have to prove that. You cannot take it for granted that they know that root 3 is irrational. No, you have to prove that. Can you please tell me how to solve AP word problems? Murli, I would advise you just one thing, that is the 3 P's of life. That is practice, practice, and practice. There is no other thing. How I finish my paper on time? Aparna, give me another 10 minutes. I'll come back to this doubt, because as soon as we go to the marking scheme, the section wise, I'll take your doubt for sure. Aparna, stay for a while. I'll come back to that. So I guess you have some bit of idea about trigonometry as well. Please watch the last session as well. We had discussed many things about applications of trigonometry, the heights and distances. I had given you the true triangle method, right? I had discussed in detail the true triangle method. So make sure you go through that as well. Coming to mensuration, we had discussed this earlier in the yesterday's session, that you have to learn the formulas. The formulas have to be on your fingertips. It's all about the formulas, application of formulas. One thing I like to point out over here is that I've seen many students, they tend to start solving the from the first step. They start to calculate. They start doing the calculations from the first step. That if volume is being asked, then an area is given. First, they find radius. They get the radius, then they substitute the radius to find the volume. Don't do that. Please make sure you take your calculations till the last step. You take the calculations till the last step, and in the last step, automatically things will cancel out. Probably 154 with 22 will cancel out, and a very nice and a very easy calculation will come, right? So do not start solving from the first step. Make sure you take the calculations till the last step, and then things will cancel out. If they don't, then it is for everybody, right? The calculations are tough for everybody. Then it's the game of numbers which you are playing. Lastly, coming to statistics and probability. For statistics and probability, I would just say that learn the 3 formulas of statistics: the mode, median, and the mean one. And statistics, usually a 4-mark question is asked. A very long tabular thing will be given. You will be asked to find either the median or the mean in some cases. And probability, usually questions are dispersed in 1 mark, 2 mark, and 3 mark. Usually short questions are asked. That probability of getting a sum as 12 when 2 dice are thrown. Probability of getting at least 1 tail when 3 tails are when 3 coins are tossed. So questions very simple, and questions which you have already seen. Questions on coin, on dice, on alphabets are usually asked. So all in all, I've given you a gist of all the questions you can expect in the different units of this. Okay, Siddharth is asking a doubt that in triangle I face problems in question which needs construction. Siddharth, that's a very popular doubt, and everybody faces that. If you have to do some construction for solving, there is no other way, right? How to identify that you have to do the construction? For that, Siddharth, I will just give you a pointer that please understand, try to relate the question from the theorem that you have studied, right? Please understand that the question is not from a random world. It's not from Jupiter. It is from your syllabus. It is from your NCRT. So go back, once you see the question, go back to the theorem. Try to relate to one of the theorem that you can, right? And automatically it will click that either we have to draw a parallel line or we have to draw a chord, and then you will proceed. Sir, the paper will be easy. Only God can predict that. Vesag, nobody can predict whether the paper will be easy or difficult. Also, it is relative, I guess. Everybody has a different benchmark for easy, difficult, and medium or average sort of paper. So it depends on your preparation. Vesag, now is not the time to wonder, will the paper be easy? Now is the time to do and make the paper easy. All right? Please explain ogive questions. Sana, I'll do that in the next class. I'll make sure that I discuss the individual questions of statistics, probably in the next session. I'm not clear on how to solve sec theta plus this. Sanitya, go through the NCRT once more, and you will be able to. All right, let's move ahead, guys. Now comes basically the marking scheme. How to go about solving the exam in 3 hours. Right, the second part of today's session, wherein we'll discuss basically how do we actually allocate the different time for different sections, and how to solve or how to maximize our score basically. So for that, there are 4 sections, as you are already aware of. We have total of 30 questions. 30 questions being distributed in 4 sections: section A, B, C, D. Section A having 6 questions of 1 mark, giving us 6 marks. Then we've got 6 questions, 2 marks, giving us 12 marks. And 10 questions, 3 marks, 30 marks. And then lastly, 8 into 4, 32 marks. So that's your section-wise weightage of marks. I would say you start with section A and B, right? Take them in totality, take them in tandem, section A and B. Do not treat them as 2 different sections, section A and B. Take them as one section. That is the lighter part of the exam, right? Wherein you just have to answer either a 1-line or a 1-word answer is required. Please understand, guys, this is very, very important from your examination strategy point of view. Please understand this, that in your 1-mark question or a 2-mark question, they are not asking you to write paragraphs. They're not asking you to write each and every step, to explain everything. They're just wanting you to just write down the K value, or probably write down whether the lines are perpendicular, parallel, etc. Right? Just write 1 line or a word. Do not go for writing the paragraphs, because that's where you tend to lose out on time and eventually come out of the center and say that paper was very lengthy. Right? So avoid that. In section A and B, please make sure you just write 1 sentence or 1 word. Right? And also, more importantly, once you start your exam, you tend to have a very, I would say, a very positive outlook, rather euphemism of positivity, that you tend to write very neatly, you try to underline the important points, you highlight the formulas, you do rough work very neatly in the rough column. So you do that, but have a balanced approach. It's not that you start from 1 to 6 questions very neatly, and then suddenly you realize 45 minutes are gone and I've just done 6 questions, right? So you need to have a balanced approach, right? Because it tends to happen with a lot of people, right? So please make sure that you balance out the different time allocation for different sections. I had mentioned this, that 45 minutes you have to allocate for the section A and B. It's not hard and fast rule that you have to allocate 45 minutes only. You can give 30 minutes, or you might take it to 1 hour as well, depending on the level of exam. But round about 45 minutes, you should be done and dusted with section A and section B. Secondly, coming to section C. For section C, this is the most vital, most important one. This is where an average student with average preparation will actually go beyond, will actually maximize their score. This is where you tend to make mistakes. Silly mistakes also happen mostly in section C. You did not see a not, you did not see a or was there, right? So make sure that you are very attentive while doing section C, because that's where the actual examination starts. For me, section C and D is the basic examination. Section A and B is like, okay, sir, like a cakewalk. It's a picnic. Okay, 1 mark question, 1 word answer. Okay, I'll do that. That's more like an objective question rather than a subjective question. So make sure that in section C and D, you are very attentive. You do not lose out on concentration. So section C, you can take about 1 hour, 15 minutes. And lastly, the most vital of them, the long answer type questions. For that, you can take about, of course, 1 hour. Now, I'm not allocating time for revision, right? What you can do is you can have two strategies basically. Guys, pay attention now. You can have two strategies. That is, one, you can start with the question number 1, section A and B, finish in whatever time you can, move on to section C, try to solve it as quickly as possible. Then you can revise, right? You can revise section A, B, C very quickly, 5-10 minutes. Then move on to section D. Once you move on to section D, each and individual question, each and every question, you have to do it individually, and you have to check your calculations of the previous step. There will be no time for revision for section D, right? This is in both the cases that you have to make sure that the section D questions you are doing at the end, towards the end, you will not get time for revision. So you revise them individually. You do them simultaneously. Each and every step, you just cross check once, right? So section D is very, very important, right? So please do that revision simultaneously of the section D. Then the second strategy was basically that you start from section D. Some people usually feel that they want to maximize initial 1 hour because they are fresh, right? They are ready to do the questions. So they start with section D and then they come back to C, B, and A. So you can do that as well if that's your strategy, if that's your comfort level. So do at least 2 sample papers. Try and experiment with the strategy that you start from section A or section D, right? But my personal favorite is section A. I start from section A and B. I had started in my during board exams that I started with section A and B, each and every question. That gave me a lot of confidence boost, right? I was like on cloud 9. Okay, fine. 40 minutes done, and I'm done with 18 or rather 12 questions in your case, right? So that gives a confidence boost, and also it builds a momentum of solving the questions. As soon as you solve a question, you tick mark on the question paper, right? So you start from section A and then B and then C and then D. If you get stuck in a question, leave some space, leave some gap, and then move on to the next one. And do not keep the question in the back of the mind, right? The previous question. The last pointer that is there, that the 5th point, one value-based question is asked on a 4 marks or a long answer type. Value-based is basically that usually a question like based on some social ability or environmental cause or a political cause is asked, right? Wherein what kind of value is being imbibed by the people in the question. So you just have to write that they are environmental friendly, or they are caring, or they are basically that some value is being asked, that what value is being implied, that either they are very social people, they are helpful in nature, or towards environment it could be asked that they are environment friendly, they are eco-friendly, they are less using green, go green revolution, swasta abhiyan, anything you can ask. That is basically your it depends on your mood at that time, right? That what kind of value you want to write over there. So all in all, please make sure that you go about the question paper. You get a feel of question paper by doing some sample papers. Now is the time to do the sample papers, guys, right? Do not be complacent that I know everything. I've done my NCRT. I've done RD Sharma. Now what to do? Do not be complacent. Please make sure you do the previous year papers, the sample papers, and you have your own strategy, you have your own set of understanding of the question paper, right? And you work accordingly. I'll just like to point out one instance that I was about. It is about that you have to read the question very carefully. If you do not read the question carefully, you tend to miss out on some vital information, and then things go downhill, right? So you tend to lose out on marks just because of not reading the question carefully. I had given at one point of time the class 10 board exams, and there was a question of surface area volume, right? Which was about an ice cream cone, right? I'm sure everyone has had an ice cream cone once in a life, that we have got a cone, and then on the top of that, we've got a hemisphere, which is basically one scoop of ice cream they put, right? And this is a question from NCRT only, the last exercise of NCRT, where they've got gulab jamun and ice cream, right? So we had a choice in board exam of the gulab jamun. That's basically a cylinder with two hemispheres at the two ends and the ice cream cone. So what I did was I went for the ice cream. I was in that frame of mind. I was feeling the heat. So I tend to overthink in the question. And what I did was, I always had seen that they just put one scoop of ice cream. The ice cream did not go into the cone. So I just calculated the volume of the hemisphere, not the volume of the cone. However, it was asked, because the question was, find the volume of the ice cream in the ice cream cone. So I always thought that it was just the hemisphere which had the ice cream, not the cone. So make sure that you do not overthink in the questions. You stay practical. You have a pragmatic approach towards the question, and you calculate the entire ice cream in the ice cream cone, not just in your hemisphere, but also in the cone as well. In the first 15 minutes given for reading, Nanduri, please make sure you point out, you tick mark all the questions that you are confident about, that you are surely gonna do, right? Which you think that you have seen those questions. So you tick mark those questions, and you also have in your back of the mind the answers prepared. Okay, so and so, I'll have the answer. In questions you get stuck, do not start thinking about those questions in the reading time. Just make sure from a macroscopic point of view, you get a feel of the question paper, right? What all questions are there, how much time I should allocate, which section is lengthy, which section is difficult. You have a rough idea. That's what the reading time is all about. What is the meaning of that's LA is basically long answer. That's long answer type. Aurora sir. How to score a perfect 80? Sri Lakshmi, how to score a perfect 80? Okay. So I'm sure that's a dream of all those who are giving the board exams, that how to score a perfect 80. So for scoring a perfect 80, what you need to do is that, of course, you have to have had a good amount of preparation, which I'm sure you have already had that, because that's why you're asking it, Sri Lakshmi. So Sri Lakshmi, I'm sure you have had the preparation. Now, after that preparation, you have to give some sample papers, which I'm sure you might have already given. If not, please do that. So after giving the sample papers, identify where you are going wrong. Is it the time issue? Is it the calculation intensive issue, or questions based on concepts that you are missing out? What is your basic problem that you are facing in question paper, right? Is it the conceptual errors that you are doing, calculation errors you are doing? Is the paper lengthy for you if you don't have that writing speed? So what kind of issue you are facing, that depends on you, and you have to identify that by giving the sample papers, and that will give you an idea where you need to improve. So improve on your weak areas and make sure you capitalize on your strong areas. You do not miss out on your strong areas. Lastly, the last end game is basically in those 3 hours, how you do, how you perform in those 3 hours. That is what matters. So for that 3 hours, forget about getting 80. Forget about getting perfect 80. Forget about being the topper. Forget about that you have set a benchmark for yourself that you need to get this much marks. Forget about everything. In those 3 hours, basically concentrate on the question. How to get the value of theta, how to get the value of median, mean, be have that curiosity for questions, have that problem solving ability, rather than thinking about getting a perfect 80. I'm sure that will wander off that thought, right, as soon as you start solving the questions, right? So have that curiosity for questions, automatically you'll get a perfect 80. Last but not the least, it's easy to say but very difficult to apply, that avoid silly mistakes. How to avoid silly mistakes is basically have a balanced set of approach. Do not panic, do not get nervous. If you do not know a question, okay, so what, I do not know a 4 mark question, okay, still things are not gone so bad. You still have 76 marks in your hand, right? So make sure you do not uh, get nervous, yeah, right? And you do your best on that day. That's what the ultimate aim is. Everybody's aim is that in those 3 hours we need to maximize our score, we need to get the best. And automatically, if you do these things diligently, sincerely, automatically you will get a perfect 80, right? uh, so Divyanshu is basically asking what in a way we should study in gaps. Yeah, of course, everybody needs a break. Everybody needs at least 10-hour or 20-hour break after probably 1.5 hours of study. So yeah, do that. And in that break, make sure you go for a walk. You probably read newspaper if you are into the news, current affairs and all, or you might watch a web series, you might talk to your parents, or you might talk to your friends. You can do anything in your break, but after those 15-20 minutes of break, get back to the grilling, get back to the uh, study, right? Lastly, I would like to just point out, guys, that we have the 100 questions of Merit Nation. Please make sure that you sign up on that page. You will get those 100 questions with the solutions in your email as soon as you sign up. So please do that. Either you're watching from YouTube or you're watching from Facebook. Guys, just sign up on that page once, and it's an automatic mailing system which will revert back with the PDF of top 100 questions, which if you can do all the 100 questions, uh, you are bound to get at least 80% in your board exams, because that's going to give you a holistic approach of how the board exam will be, what kind of questions will be there, right? So please do sign up on that for get a hold of top 100 MN questions. And please, if you can solve them, please do solve them, okay? And if you are not able to get the solution, for some you can post it on Ask and Answer, or you can ask your friends about them. Please explain the concept of or and either not in probability. Manav, or is basically that you want a perfect 80, or you can get satisfied by 79. That's an or. You want this or this. So you can get a head or a tail when you toss a coin. What I would like to emphasize on is, Manav, that many of you have a problem with at least and at most. You should get at least 27 marks in your board exam. At least is minimum. You have to get 27 above to get have a pass word written on your mark sheet, right? So at least 27. At most you can get 80 marks in the board exam, right? You can get at most 80 marks. So that is the maximum you can get. The maximum you can get is 80. So that's what at least and at most is. Prakhar is asking how much sleep is sufficient during the exam days and preparatory leaves. Prakhar, I'm sure that sleep is something that we all require, and we tend to be over optimistic about the timetable, and then we tend to break the timetable, break the routine, and then go back to our usual cycle. So set a very realistic goal that you need at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep. I'm not saying 6, at least 7. Maximum could be 8 or probably 9 in some cases, as you're not going to school, as you're not going to any other place. So you have got ample amount of time for self-study, guys. Please understand that this limited time, you might think it's very less, but it's actually a lot. You've got a lot of time in your hand. So yes, 7 to 8 hours, depending on how you allocate it. Some people tend to doze off in during evening as well, during afternoon as well. So depending on that, please have a sleep cycle. Also, guys, please make sure that you get accustomed to the 10:30 to 1:30 body clock. That in those hours, in those 10:30 to 1:30, you are at the peak. Your mind is fresh. You are absolutely creative in those 3 hours, because it's not just about uh, being you knowing everything. You have done that, the hard work about knowing the questions, knowing the formulas, knowing the theorems, but it's all about the mental aptitude you need to build. The mental aptitude will only build by a good body rhythm, right? So you make sure that in those 3 hours, 10:30 to 1:30, you're not sleeping, you're not eating junk food, and in those 10:30 to 1:30, make sure you are practicing questions, make sure you're learning something, right? So I got 79 on and 80 on 80 in my pre-boards. I daily open, ask and answer, solve others question, but I do not have regular math practice. Is this correct? Vardhaman is basically saying that he got 79 and 80 in his pre-boards. He daily opens, ask and answer, solves others question, and but unfortunately he doesn't practice on his own the as he could, as he studies other subjects as well. See, Vardhaman, first of all, congratulations on your awesome score, on your wonderful score, getting 79 and 80 on 80. That's the dream for many class 10 students right now. So congratulations on that. And what I would advise you is that, yeah, you can solve others questions. That's the best way to increase your knowledge. Also, please do not lose out on your practice. Do at least 3-4 surface area volume questions, or 2-3 AP questions, or probably solve a quadratic equation. Do not miss out on your own practice, right? So tend to have the exemplar questions or the MN top 100 questions. Out of those 100 questions, you can practice 5 questions or 10 questions daily, probably, right? So in those 10 days, you can practice those 10 questions. You will not lose out on practice. You will not lose out on touch on maths. And hopefully, again, you will get a perfect 80 in board exams, right? I hope that's all right, Vardhaman. Karthik, weightage of hearts question. See, it varies, of course, but a round and rough estimate, Karthik, of the weightage of hearts question is 10 to 15%. So it's like 8 to 12 probably marks of HOTS, and that too HOTS will be like questions you've already seen, because there is not much variety that can be formed from, especially speaking from the class 10th maths point of view. So those 8 10 8 12 marks HOTS question, I would say there will be just one question probably, or two questions, 4 to 6 marks. That is where the really temperature gets intensified, or it's really hot. The other paper is a very average sort of paper. If you have got a decent amount of practice, you will be able to crack it, right? So with this, I like to wind up. I like to take your leave, guys. It's been a wonderful session talking to you all, taking your doubts. Please make sure you are back again tomorrow, same time. We are again having the last strategy session in the strategy series, right? So please do come, right? And we'll take up more of your doubts and also try to maximize your score. So this is me signing off. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you so much, guys. I'll see you guys probably tomorrow. All right? All the best, everyone.